Hi, this is Shannon. Hi, this is Shannon Carr. I am the founder of Hopeful Hearts Ministry, and I'm with my awesome cohort.
Hi, Tamara Lexo. I am the Executive Director of Hopeful Hearts Ministry.
This is so much fun, Tamara, that we're doing this kind of for our first time on YouTube and hopefully or not YouTube, on Zoom, and
Zoom,
then taping it to put it on
right?
YouTube. And
Trying
I'm
something
old
new.
and I'm having to wear my reading glasses, so
Yeah,
that's
no,
distracting me, just saying.
I get it. I get it. I actually should probably have mine on. That's okay.
It's all
That's
good.
okay.
It's all good. Well, I'm very excited about our show today. I
Me
hate,
too.
we've had a little bit of a break, and so I'm excited to get everything going again. And we're trying something new. We decided
We are.
because Hopeful Hearts has a YouTube channel, we wanted to be able to make sure to add these to that as well, so that people could watch what we're doing. You can see our faces, see the craziness of who we are. But then for the rest of you listening to the podcast, you still get to be a part of it as well. If we are hoping to get a few true sponsors for this podcast. So if you are listening and you're a business owner and you would like to help support the healing of those that have suffered through trauma and abuse in their past, by helping us do this podcast, please reach out to myself or Tamara. You could go to hopefulheartsministry.org and you could reach either one of us to do so. So we're just grateful to have you guys here today. So Tamara, what is it that we are talking about today?
Today we are talking about numbing our pain. And the idea is that we're designed to fully experience and feel everything that happens around us. We're designed to feel joy and pain. Our brains were created in a way for us to be able to delight in joyful moments, to mourn in sorrowful, I have trouble with that word, sorrowful moments, to have anger and be angry when there's injustice in our lives. But as humans, our tendency is to try to numb those feelings sometimes, the ones that are uncomfortable for us. We don't like to feel those. So we push them way down deep. And the problem with that is that when you numb one feeling, you numb all feelings. So, not being able to experience sorrow or mourning or anger means that you're never going to feel the highs of complete joy
Mhm.
either. And numbing is something that we do a lot as survivors because we had to. Some
Mhm.
of us had to. We taught ourselves to numb, to take ourselves out of painful moments, to kind of dissociate. So we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I love this topic because it's so true. I mean, especially if you've been through childhood trauma, you've been,
Yes.
you know, subjected yourself to years, probably decades, just like myself, where maybe you don't feel like you deserve to have true joy.
Yeah.
That you don't deserve to have that true joy, true happiness, true just being able to feel what life has to offer. I know for many years
Mhm.
I didn't really feel that I was going to be able to know what love was like without having to suffer through a great amount of sorrow because I couldn't be 100%, that I constantly had like a thorn in my side, if you will. And I didn't know how to fully love and receive love because of
Mhm.
actually, I mean, this is going to sound maybe confusing, but maybe because of the lack of boundaries that I had because of the abuse, and then the kind of unhealthy boundaries that they set up, because then I kind of put this wall up around me, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's what we do is and numbing ourselves from everything. So,
Right. And I feel like too when we say, I don't want to feel this right now, so I'm going to numb it out. It prevents us from being able to heal.
mhm,
It's like, some people might say, "Oh, well, you're just putting a Band-Aid on it." I don't think it's even that because, at least a Band-Aid protects and allows things from getting in, but numbing means that you're not addressing the real issue. So
mhm,
it's just there still. It's just festering
mhm.
underneath.
You
So,
know,
oh, go ahead.
no, what I found with, we do this a lot because you say things and I'm like, oh, what I found with in doing this over the years is, and for myself included, it's kind of why I began Hopeful Hearts to start with, is there are so many people that have gone through their past, past childhood trauma, past
Mhm.
childhood abuse, even as a teenager, maybe even a first marriage, and you have put it away so much that you've gotten to a point where you've just stuffed it and stuffed it and stuffed it, that you don't even know how to bring it out. And then the smallest chance that you start talking about it or start bringing it out, that you start feeling that numbness goes away, right? So you start feeling, and you
Mhm.
start feeling the pain, you start feeling that uncomfortable, like not just pressing on a bruise, but really sticking your finger into that
Yeah.
nasty scar. And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't want to do this. And I would have so many people say, I don't even want to do it right now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go through this. I don't want to go through the pain. And so they just stop. They just
Mhm.
stop. And then they stop the whole healing process because that fear of of feeling again,
Yeah.
because they've been so numb, they've forgotten that you know what's the other word, what's another word for feeling? They've forgotten that
The
sensation.
sensation, yes.
Right, right. But I think what is so heartbreaking is for us to truly feel that pain, we must also know a great amount of joy. And because you don't go with one without the other. And what
Right.
often then is so wonderful to see is those that say, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm about, helping myself and going on this healing journey. And so when they do that and they go through the work and they feel that pain, they
Mhm.
recognize that once you go through it, that
Mhm.
you can start, like, you start then again feeling that sensation of what happiness is and what joy is, and pride, good pride for
Yes,
yourself for having gone through that journey. And I think that's just what's so important.
I agree. I totally agree. So, before we go any further with that, what are some examples of numbing? Let's talk about that. Um, well, first of all, let's say this. So we keep saying numbing, and might be saying, I don't even know what
What
that
that
means. And we're
is.
talking about when you avoid or try to escape feelings. It's when you're trying to protect yourself from feeling something, but as we just said, um, it's not really protecting. It's just
Mhm.
tucking it away. Um, but what are some common examples of numbing?
Well, I mean, I know for myself in high school was definitely, drinking alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
and doing any kind of substance abuse
Yeah.
is tends to be one of the first things that people go towards,
Mm-hmm.
in that sense of numbing. And I want to make this very clear. I mean, there's alcoholism is a disease.
Right.
Being an addict of any kind of substance, that is an actual disease that can be hereditary and handed
Mm-hmm.
down. And I think it's so important, if you have alcoholism in your family, or any kind of an addiction issue in your family, that to know that, that you're subject to that as well.
Right.
But not everybody that maybe has gone through numbing with alcohol is necessarily an alcoholic.
Right.
I just want to
Right.
point that out there. Um, but it is a tool that is often used because it's like, I
Mhm.
just want to escape. I just want to get away. I don't want to think about this anymore. Um, and that's where it becomes really dangerous, a dangerous aspect of that. I know another one is eating.
Mhm.
A lot of people, and this is probably more
That's
prevalent
my big one is food.
is,
Um,
yeah.
I deal with that still with my therapist. Um, trying to I know when it started. I know it started after my mom's suicide. Um,
Mm,
and I've really been processing just in the past couple months a lot about why I took that on because I was very healthy, I was very fit, I was a tiny little thing growing up. Um, my mom wasn't, but she used food as a way to show love to people.
hmm
She was an excellent cook, an excellent baker. She was just really talented in just about every way, and she fed people. I mean, like, hospitality was a thing. It's like, "Come over to our house, and we'll make you this excellent meal and just make you feel loved." And, um, within hours of her suicide, people were bringing food to me. It was just me. It wasn't like I had a house full. It was just
Right.
me. Um, but somehow during that time, I transferred that feeling of, "Oh, this is how my mom loved them, and so they're giving that love back to me now." And,
hmm
so when I'm sad or stressed or, upset, I tend to look for something carb rich. I like something heavy, something sweet.
Yeah.
It I don't wanna feel those things, and it feels good to have a donut, or it feels good to have biscuits and gravy, so I'll numb those feelings with food.
Oh my gosh, I just watched a movie, because, truth be told, he is kind of my Hollywood crush. Do you and Chuck ever have those people that I know I'm going way off topic here, but no, I'm not going off topic, I promise.
No, I
I
know, yeah.
watched a movie that I want to talk about,
Mhm.
but do you have those people that you're like, oh, I've
Yeah,
got these,
yeah.
Hollywood crushes
Hollywood
that if
crush,
they
yeah.
ever came around, right?
Right,
Right. Anyway, that would never happen. But
yeah.
um, hold on. I don't know what just happened. Sorry, I like a phone
No.
call went through. Um, I love Brendan Fraser.
Oh
Absolutely
god, I knew
love.
you were gonna say that. I knew as we said and you said the movie and you said I love Shannon, our friendship may have to be over. I'm sorry.
What? You don't like Brendan Fraser? What?
Oh,
Are you being serious right now, Tamara?
I am being so
You
serious
don't
right
like him?
now.
Why?
I
Why?
I have
I
a
want to know
very
why.
I have a very petty reason. Um, one, I mean, this was a million years ago when he was a big star, like the first
Yeah,
time.
when he did Soul Ties, it was fantastic. I love that movie.
Um, when he did a commercial. He was on like The Daily Show or something with Jon Stewart, and he did this little
Yeah.
promo thing, and it was like, um, "Hi, I'm Brendan Fraser, and I'm going to be on The Daily Show." And yes, it's Fraser, not Frasier. For all you idiots out there, it's Fraser.
Uh-uh. Well, then I'm an idiot because I've been saying
Well,
Fraser, not
well,
Fraser.
there
So
was something about that,
sorry,
like
Brendan.
Brendan, something about that promo, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't ever look at him again." Like, it just
That is so
that's how
funny.
petty I am,
Well,
but
he pissed you
I cut
off.
Brendan
Excuse my
Fraser out of
language,
my life.
everybody.
But you know what? That's
He
good
called you
because
an idiot. That's
if
fine.
he ever shows up in Kingwood, you can have him, and I'll be like, "Go for it."
Excuse me. That is hilarious. All right. Well, back to our
Sorry,
segment.
the whale.
That's on me. I mean, I know it's the whale. Yes, the whale. It is a great. It's hard to watch, but it's a great movie. But it is a great example of what we're talking about here, the
Now
numbing
I
of the
have to watch
pain.
it.
I know you kind of do. I mean, because it's a great example. I mean, be careful in the first scene, I will say. The first scene's like,
Okay.
oh my God, I don't want to watch this. But it's I don't want to give it away, but I mean, it's a story about a
Yeah.
gentleman that literally just holds himself up because of tragedy and
Mm-hmm.
eats himself to death. I mean, he
Yeah.
literally pretty much eats himself to
Yeah.
death, and it's just heartbreaking. But you know what? There's so much about childhood abuse in this that,
Mm-hmm.
just in regards to his relationship with his daughter and what she was feeling, and then,
Right.
but in some ways it is beautiful that, because he tries to have a relationship with her again, and he really does recognize his fault in what, he did by abandoning her.
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, I could go on. I like Brendan Fraser. I do.
Fraser.
And Fraser.
He did win an Oscar
And
for that movie,
he
so
did win it. I was very proud of him. And it was a really good movie. But it was a good movie just because of what you and I do and what we've gone
right.
through
I
and
know.
what
I'm
we
just
help other people with.
trying not to throw up in my mouth a little bit.
Okay. But back to numbing. But that's, I mean, honestly, it's truly an example of the extent of what we can
Yeah.
take to numbing.
Well, and then
Um,
speaking of movies and
yeah.
shows and all, that's another thing, especially um this became more prevalent, I think, during the pandemic when people were home and it was like, oh, well, I can binge all 17 seasons of The Real Housewives of whatever town,
Mm,
and
mhm.
because we
Whatever
didn't
town.
want to watch news or
Right.
anything else. And streaming services are so, I mean, we can get what we have a whole world of entertainment just
Right.
on our phone. And I catch myself doing that sometimes, like turning on just crap. And I'm not even
Uh-huh.
really watching it, but I don't want to be alone with my own thoughts. Like if
Mhm.
I've been stressed and I've been working hard on something and I don't want to think anymore, it's like I'll turn on something. And I think that's okay every
Mhm.
now and then to go, you know what? I just want some mindless entertainment.
Mhm.
I'm just going to turn
Mhm.
something on that makes me laugh or makes me smile or whatever, like there's nothing wrong with that. But when it becomes a habit and it
Mhm.
is interfering with regular life,
Right.
that's when
It's
any of these things become a problem.
mhm. When it overtakes or goes into your relationships, or,
Right.
that you're on your phone. I was
Right.
visiting a friend over the weekend in Mississippi, and one of her, best friend walks in, and we're all sitting there, we're all visiting, and her friend gets on her phone. I didn't really, honestly, I don't know the woman, so I wasn't thinking much about it. Well, my friend's husband goes, so and so, I mean, do I have to take the phone away from you? Are you going to get off your phone? Are we not having it? Did you come over to visit, or did you come over
Oh,
to like get on your phone? I was like,
okay.
now they have a relationship that, I mean,
Yeah.
it's joking, but not. Apparently
Right.
she has an addiction to just, getting on her
Right.
phone. But
Right.
yeah, anyway, it brought something up for me, like, oh, I mean, the phone definitely can be an addiction too,
Yeah.
especially, I mean, think
It
about
can
our
be.
kids and think about
Oh, yeah.
how they, numb their minds. They're just
Right.
watching TikTok, or they're,
Right.
scrolling through whatever it is that they're scrolling through, and they just keep going, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not even thinking about
Yeah.
anything. They're just numbing whatever it is that
Right.
they're suffering through that day. Yeah.
I could sound like an old lady and be like, these kids don't even know how to be bored
These
anymore.
kids.
These kids these days. But I do the same thing. So,
Yeah, I know,
standing
I
in the
know.
grocery store line and I'm like, oh, I got time. Instagram. Let me just scroll and see
Right.
what I see here.
I mean, I'm the first. I do watch a few of the New Jersey housewives. I mean, sometimes I feel like I could just get a thing of popcorn and go sit on my corner
Yeah.
and just start watching it like live.
Right. I know. I know. Yeah, that's
Bravo. Y'all
right.
should come here.
Bravo. Come see
It's my
Kingwood.
own life. I mean, I'm kidding. Not.
right?
Um, yeah, and then exercise. I know exercise is another thing that is definitely an example. I
Mhm.
have I won't say I wish it was me, but I wish maybe half of this was me. But I know somebody that will exercise in the morning, then they'll come home and they'll exercise in the evening, and then they're running
Mhm.
another 4 miles, and you're like, good gosh. um, I mean, just and in many ways, it's to get that high, it's to get the
Right.
adrenaline rush, to get those
Uh-huh.
endorphins going, and it's the only thing that could get them, into that better state, that
Right.
better place.
Right.
But in some ways, they're then physically tearing their joints and their body down.
Yeah.
They need rest and recovery. And then, one of the other things that I know is sex,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it
And
is.
I can't say that's mine, but I'm
Not
just
it's not
kidding.
mine either. Or the exercise or that. They're not my addictions.
No, but
Well,
I know that so many people go for different things for whatever reason, right? Here we got
yeah,
these new little microphones, and
I
this is
know. I
making
keep
it come
knocking it
apart.
over.
Um, and like I noticed that, it's no I'm not telling something that I shouldn't be telling here. I talk about it all the time, but my two sisters and my mom, we were all abused by the same person, my grandfather.
Mhm.
And we all acted out differently. We
Right.
all chose something different to numb ourselves. And, you see, I mean, you can't determine what's going to cause somebody to go and become more sexually, what's the word you would call when somebody's like sexually active, I guess,
Like,
or whatever.
yeah, or just addicted to that
Yeah.
behavior.
Yeah. Or who's going to eat or who's going to,
Right.
go to alcohol, whatever. It just is something that probably arises, or you had food delivered to you. Did it maybe
Mhm.
start
Right.
that way just because that was what was there?
Yeah.
I don't know. Could it be predisposed because of what's
Right.
genetically, within our family?
Yeah. It could be.
Possibly. Yeah. One day we're going to have doctors on here that are going to answer some of these
We are.
questions for us.
We are. More than just our little ponderings here. But I think one of the most important things is that we have to come to a place where we realize what we're doing. We have to step out of denial. That's they always say, that's the first step in any kind of healing or recovery is to step out of the denial that you're doing it because I think for a lot of us, it does become a completely unconscious behavior. It's
Hmm.
kind of like you learn as a small child not to touch the stovetop because it's hot. So anytime you get near the stove now, you don't have to think, oh, I shouldn't touch that. It's hot. You just don't touch it because it was on
Hmm.
and you were cooking and it's still hot and it becomes a natural behavior. And I think the same thing happens to us when we get these addictions or we learn to numb ourselves and it's like, oh, um, for someone it might be like, well, my husband's coming home and I don't like how we communicate or don't communicate or whatever, so I better start drinking my wine now.
Hmm.
Because I need to take the edge off before he gets here. Or shopping. We didn't say that one, but um, I have had problems with that in the past too, and I think it's one that just about any of us could
Hmm.
understand when you go, "What? Not feeling good today. I'm gonna just buy myself something pretty," and you feel
Hmm.
better for a little bit, but then you got to pay the credit card bill,
Right.
or
The bills keep adding up, and
right, or you get a stain on your new dress that you bought to make yourself feel pretty, or you use up the candle you bought, or whatever that thing. It's not a lasting fix for anything.
Mhm.
Um, so we do these things and we don't think about them. But we have to come to a place where we do think about it, where we do realize this is what I'm doing. Do you
Mhm.
think that do you think you can stop these behaviors on your own? Or I don't know. Yeah. I'm just
A
rolling
stopping.
here. But like, yeah, like if you realize, okay, like for me, I say, okay, I am fully aware that I have a tendency to eat if I'm sad or, depressed or stressed out. I tend to eat. Now, and I think food is a hard one because you have to eat. It's not like you don't have to have Netflix or you don't have to go to the store to buy a new purse or a new
Mhm.
car or a new watch or whatever your thing is. Um, you have to eat. But for me, it's not, it's more than that. So um, I've acknowledged that. Do you think when you acknowledge something that you can overcome it on your own, or you need therapy or accountability or somebody?
I mean, I just having done this with Hopeful Hearts for over a decade now, I've seen people overcome and do great
Mhm.
things. By finding out what those triggers are, by setting up, um, you know, um, something to do, telling myself if I feel this trigger, if somebody
Mhm.
hurts my feelings and I find myself in the pantry and I'm
Mhm.
going towards that, sleeve of, or I should say the freezer, and then going towards that sleeve of Girl Scout cookies. Um, I need to recognize like, oh, wait a second, like I'm
Mhm.
obviously triggered. I need to step away and I need to ask myself, what was it that triggered me? I need to deal with that before I go and choose the
Yeah.
cookie. And then if I can deal with it and go, okay, this person said this, or I read this, or, whatever it was that triggered you, I smelled this, whatever, what was it making me feel?
Mhm.
What was it making me feel? What is the lie behind that feeling? And then what is my truth? Is that still happening to me in this moment? Is it affecting my current presence of what I'm doing within my relationship, within my job, within my family? And however it is that you can answer those, and that if you feel good about that response, and it's not something that maybe, or it could be something that you go, you know what? I don't like all my answers to those responses. This is something I need to work on in therapy. And that's how you kind of find those moments that you have to write
Yeah.
down and go, okay, I think I kind of need to focus on this because it keeps coming up and I'm not quite over
Mhm.
it yet. But when you can go through all of that and you've done that, and this could take a matter of just minutes, or you could sit
Yeah.
with it in time, and then you could go back to that freezer, and then maybe you might find that you'll only take two cookies instead of the sleeve,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
You find that you can, it's not that you have to step away from it completely, but you learn your boundaries behind it.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's my thought, and that's what I've
No,
seen, and that's
I
what I've
think that's great.
experienced.
I think that is a great answer to that, because I think you kind of have to handle it the same way you would. Um, for instance, my daughter she was having some stomach issues last year, and the doctor suggested that she keep a food diary or food journal and write down, the things that she was eating, the time of day that she was eating, and then, that would help her see if there were any things that were triggering the stomach aches. And I think that we can do that with our behaviors, at the end of every day, or as the day goes on, if you're super responsible and on it. But for me, it would be like at the end of the day to say, okay, um, what good things, how did I respond well to things today? Where am I proud of myself in the way I responded? And where are the areas that I didn't respond so well?
Mhm.
And kind of take note. What was I wearing? What was the air feeling like around me? And taking in account all of the circumstances around, because we can be triggered
Mhm.
into doing these behaviors that aren't necessarily healthy for us by things that we wouldn't even expect. It doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, somebody came in and they were terrible to you, and so you ate cookies. I mean, it could be a song that came on, a commercial or,
Mhm.
um, a scent. I know you've said before, like coffee breath
Coffee.
is the
Mhm.
thing. Yeah, just to smell that. Um, and so making note of that and go, okay, what was going on? Where was I? What was going on around me? Um,
Mhm.
so that we can be more knowledgeable about it and deal with it
Mhm.
appropriately. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wanted to note here, let me pull it up here. There was a Bible verse that I thought that I had written down here that I thought was really pertinent to this. And this is from Psalm chapter 30, and this was David crying out to the Lord. He says, "To you, Lord, I called. To the Lord I cried for mercy. What is gained if I'm silenced? If I go down to the pit, will the dust praise you? Will it proclaim your faithfulness? Hear, Lord, and be merciful to me. Lord, be my help. You turned my wailing into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy, that my heart may sing your praises and not be silent. Lord, my God, I will praise you forever." I thought that
Mm.
was just a perfect picture of
Yes.
going, okay, I'm in all this despair and I'm in this pain, but God, I need you to rescue me. And
Mhm.
then in the next breath, he's praising God for rescuing him, for bringing him up. And,
Mhm.
that's where we want to be, is in a place where we can call out to God when we're feeling the things that are uncomfortable, when we're feeling the things that are painful, um, when we're getting upset, and we can say, God, I need you
Mhm.
because these thin mints aren't going to help me.
As we're talking about him, though, I'm like, oh, I really.
No, right? I'm like, I could have some Thin Mints today.
No, I
Yeah.
I agree, and yeah. Should we be going on a break? It just hit me. Do
Well,
we know how
we
this? I
kind of
know
blew.
y'all are all going to hear this, so
You're gonna hear
we're
this because
gonna
we're
we're.
just we're doing this live. No, I think we're good. We've got like
Okay.
uh
Well, I had a
can wrap
thought.
the whole
Is
thing up in a few minutes.
well, I had a thought. So, I write a blog for a not a podcast, a blog called primesoil.com. It's just specifically a Catholic blog, but and I mean, it's really open for anybody, but I write my Just Show Up blog there. And today it just really hit me. I was thinking about my mom for some reason, and this was after reading a book that just opened up the door to how sometimes, because of what we've been through and because of what we've been through in our past, it was the book Winter Garden by Hannah.
Yes.
Oh, what's her last name? I have to go
Uh
find it.
Keep talking, I'll look it up.
Okay, yeah, Winter
That's a good book.
Garden. And the story is about a this family, these two daughters and their mother who's from Russia, and they grow up barely knowing her, barely, like, she's just very hard, very kind of no emotion, no, it's just, and so it's this whole story is just kind of about this dynamic of this family and coming to know this woman's story and why she's been numb and cold and maybe not
Kristen
as
Hanna.
loving. Kristen Hanna's Winter Garden
Yeah,
is
she wrote
great.
The
I finished it
Nightingale,
last night.
which is super popular.
Yes, I haven't read that one yet. I need to probably read that. It's like her favorite. It's like the most
Yeah,
known, I think, of the ones she's
yeah,
written. I've
it
read a
is.
lot of hers, but not that one. But
Yep.
The Great Alone is fantastic about
Yes, it
Alaska.
is.
Awesome. But anyway, so she gives this great dynamic. I mean, one day I'm a writer. I wish that I could write these great books too, but
Mm.
She gives this great dynamic of, uh, this family and this mother who's been hiding. She's not been
Mm-hmm.
talking. She's not been, telling her story. And it made me think of my own mother and, growing up, like I said, I mean, she was abused by her father, but she didn't tell
Mm-hmm.
anybody. And so she wasn't one to necessarily be affectionate and, all those things. And I knew she loved me. She was a great
Right.
caregiver and she
Right.
did a lot for us. And but she wasn't like I'm going to pull you in and hug you, or I'm going to put kisses
Mm-hmm.
all over your face,
Right.
things like that. Now, my father was, so it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
never doubted how I
Yeah.
was cared for. Um, but it wasn't until I was in high school and I was going through, I'm not high school, college, when I was going through a rape trial in college. And it was intense. And it was my first time to really speak up. And I had to tell my parents. And that's when I learned of my mom's abuse. And she drove the 4 hours to be with me at SFA. And just in us talking, it's like she opened up and started to finally share
Mm-hmm.
about what she had been through. And I didn't get her full story in that one moment. It took probably good the next 10 years for it really to all come out and come out in
Mm-hmm.
the open, because it was more than just her father. I mean, having lived through that, then she got into this, first marriage that was abusive, and there was a lot that went in that. He was a Vietnam vet. God
Mm-hmm.
bless him and for his service. But unfortunately, as we
Right.
all know, that really brought a lot of traumatic experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of that behind my mom as well and her story. And just being able to get to know my mom and have her open up and bring her stuff into the light, really, I think helped us to break some generational bondage that was
Yeah.
happening. And for me to embrace her and to understand her and to forgive her and um, be able to move forward on a different level of healing, and then also look at myself in a deeper way and know
Mm-hmm.
that if I can talk about this and share this, maybe my kids will understand why I'm so whacked out
Right.
sometimes, or maybe they can look back and go, okay, do I maybe expect them to know it now or to receive it now or
Mm-hmm.
understand it now? No, not necessarily. But anyway, just as we were talking about, how do we stop and how do we change? The biggest thing, and it's really what Hopeful Hearts mission has been, is bring what's been done to us in the darkness out into the light, bringing
Yes.
everybody into the light of Christ. And it's being able to share our stories and to talk
Mm-hmm.
about it and to find that safe place, whether it's with just your loved one, but hopefully also with a therapist, and to work through and to pinpoint those triggers and how, and get your toolbox full of what you can do to continue to improve and work
Yeah.
on yourself. So anyway, it just made me think about that.
I love that. I love that. So, for our listeners out here, where can they find out more information about Hopeful Hearts Ministry?
Yeah, so go to hopefulheartsministry, singular.org, hopefulheartsministry.org. Also, and then you can find us on YouTube. As I was saying, this is kind of one thing I hope that we can upload on YouTube as
Yeah.
well. We have many different videos. We used to do I Have a Voice videos, which I really do hope to film a few more in the next year or two. We have some great survivor thrivers that are wanting to get their stories out there. And I just,
Yes.
there's all different kinds of stories. And like I just said, we all need to share our story. And that helps us to feel again. It helps us to come out of that numbing.
Yes.
But as I said, hopefulheartsministry.org. And also another thing I would love for us to do is, if you have anything that you would love for Tamara and I to address in these podcasts, if you could email info
Mhm.
at hopefulheartsministry.org, or you can email Tamara. It's Tamara at hopefulheartsministry.org, or it's Shannon at hopefulheartsministry.org. It will get to us, either
It
Tamara,
will. We'll
Shannon, or
find it
info.
somehow.
And we would love to know what you want to hear about. And we do plan to, especially now that we can do it this way, now that we're doing, I'm so sorry if y'all can hear the dings. Can you hear that, Tamara?
Can't
The
hear it.
dings? Okay, good, good.
What is it?
My computer's dinging at me because all these people
Oh,
are texting.
no.
Um, Sorry, but if I would love us to be able to know that we're talking about something that really hits you, that will affect you, that if you need help with something, we won't bring your name up. We won't, but we would just love to hear from you, no matter
Yeah,
what. If you would, you know.
absolutely.
So yeah, is there
Oh,
anything else? I can't think of what else.
no, I think just a reminder that you are not alone. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, my trauma or my abuse or the way I numb myself is so terrible, it's so embarrassing. I could never, ever talk about it to anybody. I promise you that there's really, I just can't imagine anything out there that Shannon and I haven't heard some version of or lived ourselves. Um, and the world, the enemy wants you to think that your problems are too big, that there's no hope for you. But that's what we're here for, is to bring hope. So look for us, hopefulheartsministry.org. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, wherever you're listening to it, if you would give us a like and a subscribe, that would be awesome because that,
Now we could have
uh,
more than hundreds of followers.
right?
We have tens of followers.
Tens of followers out there. So we would love to have more of you listening and calling in to us. Share it with a friend.
That's right. And one last thing, we do have an event if you're in the Kingwood area or surrounding area of Houston, or you could even drive down from Dallas if you would like. But in Texas, we have an event coming up. Tamara, you want to say a little bit
Yes,
about
on
that?
Saturday, April the 15th. So it's the weekend after Easter. Saturday, April the 15th from 10 o'clock in the morning till noon, 12 noon. Just a 2-hour event we are having at Christ the King Lutheran Church in Kingwood, Texas. And it's a time of hope building. The event is called Holding On to Hope. There's so much hope that's talked about with Easter. And then after Easter, we go, okay, well, what now? And so we're going to talk about holding on to hope, and we're going to look at God's word. We're going to share stories. I mean, Shannon and I can tell a story together and apart. So we're going to share some stories. We're going to laugh a lot that morning. We're going to do some practice breathing and some exercises. That way, I promise it won't hurt. It's going to be a fun morning together. Men, women, you're all welcome. You can register for that event at hopefulheartsministry.org. So thank you for being with us today.
Awesome.
We are so glad you were here to listen or watch us, and we will see you next time.